Thanks, Chris. Thank you, everybody. And so I'm Chris Sangwin from the University of Edinburgh, and I'm the lead developer of the Stack online assessment system. And I'm going to give a quick developer update on what we've been up to. My slides being shared correctly, Chris, is that all good? Yep, right, thank you. Okay, good. Well, thanks, Christian, for giving me this hour to update you on what's been happening with Stack. I hope I can fit everything into the time available. We've got a huge amount going on, but let me just tell you a few things about Stack. So, I mean, Stack is an online assessment system. It's widely used, and I've put computer algebra at the core. It uses Maxima. So some key design things from Stack. We separate out validity from correctness so that students know what's required. They're not penalized on a technicality, and we can get some increased robustness in our marking. We can include those CAS calculations in the feedback, and I designed this really with formative feedback in mind as opposed to marking exams. Okay, I've tried as best as I can to provide useful tools to teachers so they can think at an educational level. So that would be, how do I test this property, rather than how do I write code to test this property, right? So there are things like answers tests, which test if something is in factored form, so that you can just ask for that property. We've got support for things like scientific units, flexible multi-part questions, question blocks. There is a line-by-line reasoning by equivalence, and a key feature which I'm surprised other systems haven't also implemented is unit testing of questions. So actually, students get randomly generated versions of a question. They select from a pre-generated random list of variants, and we can test that each random variant works and that's robust. So I hope other people have copied that, because it's really a very useful thing to do. Okay, Stack is designed for very tight quiz integration with both Moodle and Ilias. So it's part of the quiz system, and you can use the other quiz things associated with it. So if you haven't used Stack, let's go to the EAMS website on the Stack page. If you want to have a look as a student, you can click as a student here. If you want to try authoring as a teacher, you go to a separate site and you should come through as a teacher. There's an author quick start guide that many colleagues have managed to use quite successfully. There are other things here as well related to the Stack bit. And actually, George's session earlier talked about the e-assessment research, which is not just Stack. So we put some other non-Stack related things down here just to separate them out. Okay, so please have a look at the system if you've not already seen it and you're interested. So, well, really the big news is that we've moved from version 4.2 to version 4.3, which actually internally had a major re-engineering of some core components that have been there for 15 years. It was kind of long overdue, actually, and it took a year to do, and I'm hugely grateful, to Matty at Alto for instigating this, taking the lead and pushing that through. So thank you, Matty. The whole project is much more soundly engineered, and really the goal was no changes in features, which doesn't sound very exciting really, but just occasionally you have to go through those re-engineering processes and bring things up to date. As systems grow, they get more baggage with them, and at some point you have to clear this out. So I'm very pleased that what we've done, we've been using it in Edinburgh since January, and it's been very successful. Of course, there are a whole bunch of new features actually over the last year. We have a basic question use report, so teachers can see every attempt at every random version of every question and the outcomes that were generated. So that just quickly allows teachers to see what students are doing. We've added in-house styles for typesetting proof, which I will show you in a moment. We've got more compact validation and formative, more compact validation, which I will demonstrate, and something called formative potential response trees, so that now you can have some algorithms which will establish the properties you want and contribute to marks, but you can now also have some algorithms that are purely formative and just say things like, oh, by the way. Now those don't contribute in any way to the marks, right? And they're just, you can put them anywhere in the question, and that's just, I think, a very simple feature, but actually will change the way we can use this and really help us put much better feedback all over the place if we use it that way. Whole bunch of incremental improvements to reasoning by equivalence. I always think I haven't done anything, and then I look back through the commit logs as to what we've added, and there are a whole bunch of really significant things, including some support for calculus that wasn't there 2 years ago. So you can now do derivations, including calculus operations. I'm going to show you some semi-automatic marking stuff, human marking. We've got resizable matrix inputs that people have been asking for ages. That arose from the Stack conference last year. And then a whole bunch of other features for supporting real intervals and intersections and unions of intervals and equivalence of sets of real numbers. propositional logic, and sounds like a strange thing, but just as a support for tables. So a table is now a proper Maxima object. You can define a table, and really the principal idea of that is to typeset tables in a consistent and easy way. So you might want the table of values for a function, or you might want a truth table. You might want to display the difference between two tables. If the you can then take a propositional logic expression from a student and typeset what they've entered against what you expected them to enter, right? So just a whole bunch of features like that. And I'm very open to suggestions on new features. Thank you everyone for your interest. I mean, Stack has over 1,100 registered sites. I'm in increasing contact with users. The multilingual support, both for the software itself and for multilingual content, is very strong. The Danish translation, I know that was completed very recently, so thank you, Malta, for contributing that. We have commercial partners, and we have embedding into these two well-used learning environments. Okay, so the first thing I'd like to draw your attention to is the case studies. So I and my colleagues, we produced case studies last year, and we printed booklets to give out at conferences this summer. So I and my colleagues have boxes of these to give to you, which is of no use to man nor beast, unfortunately. Fortunately, we have the PDF online, and I'm just now struggling to share my screen again because I'm being inept. Right, so here is the Stack Case Studies booklet. So please have a look at this, because there's a huge amount of news in here about what's going on with colleagues. We have details of George Kieran Richards Gratwick's fully online course, details of physics textbooks, a whole bunch of other things that are going on. We had hundreds of Kenyan undergraduates using servers in Edinburgh with their mobile phone, right? I mean, Stack is being used in all sorts of surprising ways, and increasingly so. So this was a result of an award of a collaborative excellence project in 2017, and last summer, we employed an intern who produced this case study booklet. So please have a look at those. Practical online assessment of proof. So I am spent the last couple of years, spending less time actually writing features and more time making best use of the features we've got. So again, this is not really a Stack thing actually. This would be useful to anyone who's teaching maths with an online assessment system, which is why I have put the link to our preprint on the research side. So there is a preprint on the archive where we have written about how to assess mathematical proof. And let me just give you I could give a whole hour's talk just about this topic. So if we go to, we're preparing for next year. Here is just a quiz about the Cauchy-Schwarz inequality, and the kind of thing we're doing with online assessment of proof is we're asking students about the definitions relevant to the proof. So what is this inequality all about? Can the students remember how to do a dot product? Can they remember how to calculate norms? Week 2 of year 1, when they've just encountered these things, just warm them up of what this is about. Then this is what I meant by styles for typesetting proofs. So we now have in-house styles for typesetting proofs. This is probably not the best use of that style, but because we haven't got sub-blocks in here. But we're asking the students to follow through a proof with some algebraic stuff. And here you see the compact validation that I mentioned. And students can U1 times V1 stuff. So they will expand out that, fill in the gaps in the proof, and they will have proved Cauchy-Schwarz inequality in R2. And there'll be technical terms like when equality holds, which they'll not have encountered before. So what Robbie and I in this paper have done is highlight things that you might want to test associated with a proof. Right? That's the general idea here. And we're developing proof sequences of questions that assess proof. I said yesterday in the WebWork talk, I don't think individual questions have much value. What I think has value is sequences of questions, carefully designed worksheets. I think that's the useful unit of exchange. So please have a look at that work, and I'm very, very open to comment and collaboration and discussion of what we're trying to do with proof. Semi-automatic marking was something else that we've discussed, and you can come through this human marking link here and just see a human marking question. So one feature in Stack that we've had for ages is that students could just type into the notes interface, and it automatically, if they put LaTeX in here, it automatically typesets it nicely. So, you know, this is not automatically assessed, but as part of the mix where the students answer a a traditional auto-graded question next to a then justify question, which is human graded, I predict we're all going to make much more use out of that over the next year when we don't have students in front of us, right? So we can collect their work and then mark it by hand as part of the whole quiz process. So that's what I mean by semi-automatic marking of work. Yes, cheesy metaphor about, I mean, I really think we're in just at a moment where this technology and its use is going to take off. So this is definitely a taking off metaphor rather than a sunset metaphor or fly away and leave you behind metaphor, right? I really think we're at quite an exciting moment with online assessment where its day is here, and we really need to make good use of it to help our students over the next academic year. Certainly in Scotland, I think the amount of face-to-face teaching will be quite limited, and we're going to have to make use of these tools. So, sophisticated, specialist, reliable tools, right? Stack, we have those. We have models for learning. The course fundamentals of algebra and calculus that we've spoken about before and is in the case study book is a model for how to design a whole course. We're thinking much more carefully about proof comprehension sequences as a way of not trying to assess a student's free-form proof. I think that's a long way away. I've thought a lot about that and I'm still thinking about it. But I think this proof comprehension is something we can do now with the tools we've got. George mentioned this morning research that will inform our practice and our theory, and community developed materials. So the last thing I want to just mention is something which we are working on. So if I go back to our website in Edinburgh, who am I logged in as? I'm probably the EAMS student now, so I will log out and log back in again. Right. So this is grayed out because only teachers are allowed to get in here yet. In 2000 to 2005, there was a major national project, and this was to produce engineering maths. And the result of this project, the lingering, lasting result of this project, are a huge number of very well written and well tested workbooks, PDF workbooks, okay, that cover the whole core engineering math syllabus, right the way from basic algebra through statistics, multivariable calculus, Fourier series, mathematical physics, a whole bunch of stuff. What we're doing in Edinburgh this summer is that we are going to implement those PDF files, at least the ones we're going to use in our own teaching, in the style of George and Richard's FAC using Stack. So here we have just one quiz. And if I just preview, that quiz, you can see that we have materials. These are taken directly from the existing Helm workbooks. And then we have stack exercises associated with those, okay? We started this 2 weeks ago today. We've started these quizzes. These ones are now finished. We need 73 of these workbooks for our 80 credits of engineering maths teaching over the next year. And we are collaborating with Loughborough, Manchester, Coventry, and a number of other institutions. And we will release the whole of the Helm workbooks that we create under Creative Commons as these interactive online quizzes. And I think that will really, I mean, originally Helm had an interactive online support. Over the 15 years, those question mark perception stuff, the Flash applets, all that other stuff has just died. And we're going to rejuvenate this summer, at least the bits that we need for our teaching as a rapid response to COVID, to discharge our responsibilities for engineering education. So, community developed materials. So there's a lot going on, and I have overrun, Christian. Thank you for your patience here. I am eating into my questioning time. Future of Stack, I want to get some text-based question formats so we can put our materials in version control. I keep saying that. It's sort of working, but I haven't released it yet. I'm sorry. Matty mentioned input 2 to re-engineer the inputs. That's another major internal engineering that we will do over the next couple of years. And that will help us with the feature requests. So very rushed, a lot there because there's a lot going on. It's a very exciting time, and I hope I've got a couple of minutes for questions.
Thank you very much, Chris, for a lightning move through a lot of content there. I have a question, and one that links to a question on the Moodle site, which is actually related to these Helm workbooks. So I guess one of the significant uses of these was via math support centres, where students might not necessarily have the infrastructure to be able to run these tests. So so linked to that, question from Christopher Jobling on the Moodle site: can questions be authored in stacks and delivered in a VLE other than Moodle? So I guess on that wider point,
right, absolutely. So we don't have Moodle as our institutional VLE. We use Blackboard, and we connect the institutional Blackboard over to a Moodle site that we're running. And we may be in a position to offer that service over the next year. We may be able to host a big and powerful server, and colleagues who want to use these Helm workbooks may be able to link. This is all happening so quickly, right? I mean, 2 weeks ago we'd done nothing, and we've got all those workbooks in progress now, right? It's really happening very, very quickly. So I don't have all the answers, but this seems to me to be a very efficient way to discharge our responsibilities to our engineering colleagues and our science colleagues to do a good job teaching with a style that we've pioneered in Edinburgh, to put the book inside the quiz that focuses students' attention in a really clear design. And we want to push forward on that over the summer and see how far we get. So yeah, we may be able to host that for colleagues who can't set something up this year. Who knows what will happen in the long term? I can't make any promises. So contact me if you want more information.
Thanks, Chris. The second question actually relates to either stack or numbers. So I think what we'll do is we'll hold back, and I'll ask that after Christian's talk, if we have time. So I'll thank you again, and we'll move on now. So Christian,